Tell you what, out of respect of time, as we said, it's now 9:05 Central Standard Time, so we're going to at least go ahead and get started on time. Welcome everybody. Of course, this is we're coming through. A lot of people's coming from the XO Global Education Channel and thread there in Discord. And we just like to welcome everybody. Of course, we're privileged today. We've got Sasha here that's going to do a presentation of why is education still not democratized. And so again, we try to start these at 9:05. We'll be done by 9:50. So during that time, Sasha will do a quick presentation. We'll have some questions, answers if there are any, and then we'll respectfully close at 9:50 officially, but that also gives us a 10-minute window if we did want to chat a little bit. So Sasha, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Perfect. So hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to see you here. For newcomers, I'm Sasha, and I'm community strategist at Noverse. And today we will touch, let's say, theory before going deeper into further practice. And today it's about this question: why is education still not democratized? And in today's agenda, we will have to understand the difference between education and knowledge, the definition of democratized. We will see problems people are still facing and why should you care about them. And we will get some overview on problems in education and what can be done and how you can help. So let's start with our MTP. It's democratized access to knowledge. So why do we use both words, knowledge and education? So the difference between education and knowledge. Do you know this difference? So you are free to join to answer my questions during this presentation without waiting till the end. So do you know the difference between education and knowledge? Jason, Derek, Agni, Christopher, Brian, Frederick.
I'll let others chime in since I kind of have the behind the scenes.
Okay, I would say knowledge is the ability to apply education. Knowledge is the ability to do something useful with what you've learned.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else? Don't be shy. I don't give bad words here, you know.
Are you grading on a scale? I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, like get my knowledge star.
Okay, so let's go to the definition. If we look at the definition by Cambridge Dictionary, education is the process of teaching or learning, especially in a school or college, or the knowledge that you get from this. So let's say it's the whole process of teaching or learning. And the knowledge is understanding of or information about the subject that you get by experience or study, either known by one person or by people in general. So briefly, knowledge is what you gain from the educational process, the process of your learning. And these two words, they always go together because one doesn't exist without another. And let's see the real life example. Riding bicycles. Knowledge is knowing how to ride this bicycle. So understanding the mechanics of balancing, pedaling, and steering. So knowing how to put yourself on a bicycle and hold yourself on it. And, oops. Okay. Sorry, technology is still not perfect here. Okay, and education is the process of learning how to ride it. So you try it several times, you make mistakes, you fall down, but you practice and practicing, and with the time, you master the skill. So you gain the knowledge of how to ride the bicycle. Then, in our MTP, democratized access to knowledge, what does democratize mean, in your opinion? How do you feel it? Please answer.
For me, it's a basic human right, something that is For my answer, when I think about democracy, it's something that it belongs to everybody. Of course, in a utopian setting, but I do like to live there. But it's something that belongs to everybody.
All right. Good answer. Derek, in your opinion, if you would like to participate?
I would agree. Equality, it could be synonymous with equality. You know,
Yes.
everyone has a right to it, accessibility to education. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me
Perfect.
as well, equality is the key word.
All right. Brian,
I said
your
to
opinion?
make it available for everyone. So I'm
Great.
in line with everybody.
All right. So our definition is simple, yes. It's really to make something accessible to a wide range of people, to make it less elitist and pretentious. So you all were right. And still, if you think that education and knowledge are already democratized, here are some reasons, let's say, that you need to consider before. First of all, is an educational inequality. We always say that education is a basic human right, but still we have 750 million adults, with 2/3 of this number are women, that lack in basic reading and writing skills. 258 million children are out of school. 6 out of 10 children are not learning a minimum in reading and math, and 69 million teachers needed globally to provide basic education in the next 5 years. And if you think that internet or ChatGPT that uses internet connection, for example, can solve everything, well, let's see. There is a digital divide, meaning that 43% of the population has no access to internet despite the coverage, because the coverage globally is about 95%. But still, there are different areas that lack infrastructure. And it's also very interesting because what we learned during the World Radio Day, that the radio remains the most used tool for news and remote education in Africa. Can you believe that? Radio. How often do you listen to the radio? I do it only when I go to the groceries by car. And still, people use it for education. There's also a skills mismatch, meaning that even if you have a job, you have your work, it doesn't mean 100% that you are eligible and you have all the skills that are necessary to it. So let me make an example. I know different foreign languages, and I was trained as a teacher and a translator. So if needed, I could be an interpreter. But still, in my case, there is a huge skill mismatch, because as a translator, I work with a written material, and as an interpreter, I would work with simultaneous speaking, and I don't have enough skills to do this. This is my personal skills mismatch. So, altogether, for knowers, what does it mean? To make knowledge through education accessible to a wide range of people, regardless of economic, geographical, physical, linguistic barriers. And you can say, yeah, fantastic, wonderful MTP and mission, but why should I care? So this is my question for you. Why should or would you care about the education? Please reply.
The first people who care, it's the parents, logically.
I think education is used as a weapon.
This is the weapon. Okay, nice answer.
I think it's controlled and distributed according to the desire of the individuals who want to direct it.
You know, it's a very interesting answer. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to be defined as a weapon. Yeah, Brian, Derek, please, Jason,
Actually, I'd like to extend that a little bit
Rick.
because
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword. And I coined the
Uh-huh.
neo-terrorism, which is the propaganda war of words with social
Mhm.
disregard to truth, transparent accountability. So one thing that we have to enable people to learn about is how people are indoctrinated with propaganda. And the other word that I introduced to this conversation is emancipation. And emancipation is about how to become open-minded, truth-seeking, free thinkers.
Mhm.
That's what I would say is the outcome of democratizing knowledge, the noble democratization of knowledge.
I like that.
It's a nice definition. Thank you, Rick.
It's
Anyone
not,
else?
it's not the first time. I don't know if it was Hans or somebody who used the same word as truth.
Mhm.
So I would like to know why you did choose this word. For me, it's a typical Christian word, I would say. But it's a fact. Many things are hidden, giving access to everybody. Why it doesn't exist? Maybe you have underlying interest not to educate. So when it comes to telling the truth, you can become very hard in the conversations with different people.
Yeah, if I could just respond to that quickly, Frederick. I make a distinction between truth, so-called truth, versus truth-seeking, which is a process. Truth as an outcome can be highly problematic if it's reinforced by fundamentalist thinking.
We say it all
Yeah,
the time, right?
My truth versus your truth.
Yeah, that's dichotomous thinking, which is dysfunctional in most contexts with dealing with complex problems.
So I agree completely, and I think the only way to naturally combat that is by being exposed to different cultures and different realities, right? Because when we are living, and that exists in every culture and religion, that we do see this fundamentalism all across the earth. And I think the way to bypass that is by seeing how people are just finding that common denominator among people.
And I like what David said in here. As somebody who has received an education, it's my responsibility to share my knowledge with the world. And there's a lot of truth in that. And we're not just talking about academia. I know it's been brought up in our other meetings as far as teaching somebody how to raise better food, teaching somebody how to go out and feed their family, or different crafts or different projects that they can use to create an income. So there's a lot of things that as we learn it, we should feel a responsibility to share it with others, especially somebody that maybe doesn't have the access to education as some of us are privileged to have.
Well, I believe it's a conduit to social equality. I lived in the Philippines for 7 years, and I was on a humanitarian charter of my life, and building schools in Cambodia, building bamboo homes for homeless families. And what I discovered, I was out in Pre-Vihir province in Cambodia. The kids were being learned outdoors up under a tent. So I built them a school put them in a structured environment, okay, and gave them that at least that expression of learning. I mean, where you're learning at or learning in, okay, is a byproduct of how you receive that learning, if I'm saying that right. So I think that's a key element. social equality, because in some of these provinces, without an education, you don't eat, literally. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for all your answers. And actually, yes, what we care about is a sort of better future for all, because education empowers individuals. It gives us the chance to learn, grow, and contribute. And also, today's children are future workers, space engineers, doctors, scientists, teachers, and so on. And without accessible education and knowledge, the level of our world's, let's say, quality will decrease. And so why are education and knowledge still not fully democratized in this case? Because there are several issues that we faced during our research. For example, there are resource disparities, and you see it clearly as a gap between wealthy and developing countries. There are social barriers like gender inequality or social and economic background that prevent people of going to school, for example, or accessibility challenges like disabilities that students may have, or remote areas and locations, or even the fact that the educational system doesn't recognize diverse learning styles, so-called VARC approach. VARC stands for visual, audio, reading, writing, and kinesthetic styles. Even limited scope of education, because several, like some cultures, some areas may have very narrow specific curriculum that really exclude valuable skills and knowledge. And sometimes it's also associated with social barriers for girls, for example. So what can be done in this case? There are just some examples that we can use. Let's say, if we speak about resource disparities, of course, it's about increasing funding for education in developing countries, like supporting educational infrastructure and teacher training. It's reallocation of resources within the countries, addressing issues between urban and rural areas, usage of diverse educational resources or learning platforms that are free of or of low cost. That's quite a dream. If we address social barriers, of course, it's promotion of girls' education. As we remember, 2/3 of 750 million adults are women that are lacking skills, like basic skills. It's fighting child labor and exploitation, or creating initiatives for parental education and outreach programs, because if parents didn't receive education themselves, they probably don't see a point of sending their children to school. Why my child should go and to learn something when I need his or her help here in our garden, for example? If it's accessibility challenges, as I mentioned before, it's the VARC approach. So it's no more one-size-fits-all education, because we are all different. We have different preferences. Maybe you learn better while you are reading or writing, or probably you prefer just watching it or listening to some materials, and that's how your memory works better, for example. If we have disabilities, or our students have disabilities, of course, we need to invest in these resources, trainings, and tools that address these disabilities and provide the access to education. Or we need to develop remote learning options. Of course, limited scope of education, while developing curriculum which is applicable for further life and working career will be quite nice. So you don't just go to school to learn how to write, read, and make 2 + 2, but you develop your skills that make you valuable on the future, let's say, job market. In this case, you integrate life skills. So it's critical thinking, digital literacy, for example. There are a lot of people who are lacking digital literacy skills, and also recognizing the value of non-formal education, because even if a place doesn't have infrastructure for schools, like for traditional schools and traditional teachers, there is still a possibility that knowledge can be passed through parents, grandparents, for example, to other generations. Like, for example, my grandfather knew well mushrooms, for example, and his childhood was during the Second World War, and he didn't go to school, of course, but still he was taught by his parents and grandparents about this topic. So he never picked up a wrong mushroom, let's say. And so your role and how you can help knowers, how you can contribute. Well, you, your friends, your families, or your colleagues can join as teachers, parents, NGOs if you work with NGOs, or volunteers if you have amazing skills, especially in the tech area, or you can be our champions and represent knowers in your local communities, in your local schools, universities, for example, or you can just be knowers fellows. So you can join us and just participate in projects live, because we build knowers with people and for people. And the best way to do it is joining our community and just participating and starting the conversation. We will send the link to the Discord in the chat. That's it. That's it for today. Thank you. Jason?
Great job, Sasha. And that, I like the way that was managed, because we had a little conversation in between, and now that we're done a little bit early, that opens up for more discussions. I love the fact that we've got some big thinkers here. We've got folks that are open-minded, and I feel like that are concerned with making education available worldwide to everybody, and not our type of education. It's a broad spectrum of education. Like I said, it may be, there's people needs the regular academia, the arithmetic, the grammar, this, that, and other. I'm a living proof that if you didn't do real good with grammar, you can still communicate with people worldwide. They might have to have a special AI to translate some of the things I'm talking about, but most of the time we can get the point across. But again, if all of this ends right now, does a person have the skill sets to go outside? And just like Derek said, do they know how to build shelters? Do they know how to build proper shelter? Do they know how to upgrade their shelters and realize that they can use the earth from under their feet to build a safer environment to live in? Do they know how to produce their own food? And those are other things that we need to learn. Then you take it a step further, some of the genius minds that we have here and all the technical skills, the AI development, the things that we're going to need in the future, being able to transfer that on not only to the younger generation, but us older generations. It's like, hey, there's things happening every day that if we don't step up our education, we're going to get left behind. And so that's what I love about Noverse and others, and we'll let Fabrizio even share a little bit of information as far as he's like, no, but the vision of being able to just present so many different ways of getting educated through one program is an amazing thing. So I'll shut up and let everybody else start chiming in. Don't be bashful.
Sasha, I wanted to say something quickly. I really liked your talk because I feel there's a spirit and an energy there. And I need to leave something else, but I really appreciate what you're doing. And please contact me in the future if you want some help.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Sure.
All right.
Will do. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, I was just thinking during my experience, I was in Cambodia. I tried to develop one school. However, I traveled to maybe about 5 different sites. Deep within the provinces near the border of Thailand. They never even seen a foreigner before. And what I discovered is that cultural wise, okay, domestic helpers or workers, okay, is a viable asset to those cultures, okay? They don't want them educated.
Yeah.
Literally, they do not want them educated, okay? And what they do, they put a cost to that. I mean, that's unachievable, okay, within these areas where it would never happen in their lifetimes, okay, unless it falls on the generations. So that's something that was really, really astounding to me from my observation. Just wanted to share that.
But Derek, the same in India, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, it's everywhere. I feel
Yeah.
like it serves the established global market, even within their own communities, right? There is something to having slaves do the cheap labor. I mean, if you have everybody educated, then you got to like fair market pricing,
Yeah.
But we've seen plenty of that in India also, and I'm sure it belongs to Africa and in any place. I mean, you see it in the United States. Certain areas have incredible schools, certain don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's everywhere. I mean, it's everything.
Anybody?
I feel like the root of all this is just shifting our awareness of what we think of education and how it is. And I think that's what's exciting to me about technology. Because I'm not don't like it, but I get so much information out of it, looking at the right sources. Of course, there's cacophony of garbage also, but when we can bring good information in one place, it's such a gift for people. To especially youth, or in this particular, right, no verse of educators, youth, parents, creating the safe communities where it has real knowledge, either of sustainability, because listen, being able to grow my own food and clean my water is sustainability. It's real stuff. So it has just as much as value as adding or writing, which are very fundamental to understand and navigate in the world.
This is very true. Has anybody got any questions of Sasha or Fabrizio as far as what is Noverse and how it is set up and the reason behind it?
Yeah, and I was looking at one of your slides, Sasha. You said teachers, champion NGOs, and volunteers. So are you supporting those different entities, or how does that work? Let's say if I have an NGO, are you providing support to that NGO, or how does that work?
So what we would like to achieve right now, let's say, is to partner with NGOs for our global outreach and introduce our Noverse and the education, let's say the access to education through these diverse NGOs in different locations. Because probably these are remote locations and NGOs support these locations. So we will be able to deliver the knowledge in these areas. And I think Frederick can talk about that because Frederick is in the partnership with Be Own Sport Foundation. Frederick, can you just give a short overview on what Alido does? Sorry.
Yeah, most of us we know. So it's a sports foundation based in Kenya and Congo RDC, where I use sports as a main motivator to gather the young people from 6 to 15. The basic idea is to associate that with education, because most of these kids, they live outdoor, they are out of home, they don't eat at lunch, and so on. The second thing with education, it's also the food. So we organize events. For instance, the last events during the Christmas time was financed by Rudy Gobert, the basketball player, who is a friend of Ali. was in basketball with LeBron James, with LeBron James at the university. So he managed to gather about 1,000 kids and so on. It's different events, and the basic idea is to follow up with them and provide them with value. For instance, if they don't learn, they don't go on learning, while in the meantime they want to learn, they couldn't access the sports facility or come to the events. So it's sports as a motivation in certain aspects, but it acts like a family. And it bridges with the family. For instance, when you have an event, they buy enough food for the whole family and for the whole kids. So after, the kids, they can go back home, or if the mother or the parent didn't come, and they have a few chickens, a few things, and so on and so on. So, because at the beginning, when he started, during the first events, he realized that they had nothing to eat at lunch. So how do you want the kids to learn and to do sports like this? So you have multiple aspects, in all that. And so his foundation has been working for 14 years. It has had a standstill during the COVID, of course. If during the events he gathered throughout the years about 500,000 kids, there is a follow-up with more than 10,000 of them who are today lawyers, doctors, and so on. Not all of them are going to become top sports people. See what I mean? So the basic idea was also to set up the education aspect and also the technological aspect, and to try to create value for Africa in a certain way. Because as we can say, most of the value of the tech firms, it's US, Europe, or whatever. But what are the tech companies with value in Africa, in India, and so on? Nothing. When in fact, they represent a 2 billion people market. So even set up a kind of incubator, with a building that was lent with free rent for 20 years. So we are at this stage, we are relaunching step by step all that, and we can organize events throughout Africa. Now, it's concentrated into Kenya and RDC Congo because since it's US incorporated foundation, you can have a deduction. So, but we'll organize things in Europe step by step. We have in the family and friends, we have several basketball players representing, but in Europe, but it has to be developed. So each time we'll have the money for an event, part of the money will be used to pay the education aspect. Since it's very cheap, what we do, it's no problem.
Awesome.
Thank you, Frederick. And Rick has a question, I guess.
Gotta unmute, Rick.
You're on mute.
Thank you. I was on a different screen, so I had to flip back. Okay, I wasn't too sure when the time was going to go. One of the things that I think you nicely described at the very beginning of this was the huge educational inequities. And it's such a massive, wicked problem that no one organization can crack the nut. So I'm just wondering whether you've formed a network of kindred spirit organizations, and I'm sure everyone in this room can think of some, of creating a network of networks, because it is such a huge problem.
Excuse me, I can answer, Annie, you can say what you want. Me, I am a former NGO related to the United Nations. Okay, so I still believe in the international system. Why? Because, for instance, Ali was invited to the General Assembly conference to speak about education. The international organizations are interested in what can be done, and the only way to federate everybody is to go through this existing system. We never had in mind the idea to go alone in our corner. Even technically, it's organized so that we can work with everybody. And probably you'll have providers of content that will work with us. We will not do everything. But you always have the objective with this huge problem, as you say, but you have to address also the economic issue. So doing step by step this work, implementing, having result, having different challenges with results will help us to become like a syndicate inside the international organization, but we stay on the field. We are not political. We know politics, but we accept the system. Why? Because at the end, for each country, the bigger will be the basic idea in the business. It's to be on the donors conference and so on. And this is what has been done through the brother of Ali when he was at the United Nations 2 weeks ago. And it opens the door to OECD and so on and so on. So the work to be done is heavy, very heavy.
Frederick, sorry, because we don't have so much time left, unfortunately.
No, sorry, but I tried to...
I would like to add about networking. Of course, Rick, it's very right question, I would say, about networking, and that's why we would like to create a community, because we can't address different issues just by ourselves. Right. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people outside, different NGOs and organizations that are willing to help. And they also probably feel lonely in this field, because there's a huge amount of work to be done. So if you want to help us with this network creation, why not? We are open. It will be nice to have you with us.
Well, and I'd like to chime in also, as just like what Derek asked about the NGOs, and then what Rick's saying, and just like Frederick is obviously letting us know, the wonderful thing about it, like the Beyond Sports, and Ali is the one that founded that. That's who he keeps referring to. And then even like at the bottom of the Noverse site, you'll find his, but you'll also find Make Kids Transform. And we've got a young lady right here present with all this beautiful art behind her, and that's who's heading that up. And so the good thing about it, as we grow, we're bringing eyeballs to their organizations. We're bringing eyeballs to those that are passionate about the education, and vice versa. They're doing the same for Noverse. And in the same time, it's like we said, we're, each person may teach in a different way. So we'll be bringing eyeballs to people's YouTube channels, their e-learning courses, their, different programs, and even some of the other existing programs that are out there. We're not saying, hey, we're the end all be all. It's, hey, let's show people that, there are other ways to get educated, and how do we make that accessible for everybody anywhere in the world, even the units that we'll be working with to take the units into the furthest regions where there are no Wi-Fi signals, and we can create local Wi-Fi to teach educations. We can load these programs on that system, take it into Cambodia, take it into Kenya, the Congo, different places, and allow those structures to have a local Wi-Fi. So that's what we that's what we need. It's just a bunch of people coming together and figuring out, how do we support each other, how do we promote each other, and how do we bring this awareness to the world.
Awesome.
Yeah, part of my point was is how can we, create sort of exponential growth of the networks that are aligned? But I actually, Frederick, I would disagree. I'll give you a different perspective. I think educational equity is an incredible political act. It's subversive to the main power structures at the present. So I don't think it is political. Now, it may not be political in a certain dimension.
Yeah, of course, I understand what you say. I try to be polite because we have to keep the business speech, but and to lower the political, not to hurt geopolitical
It is
interest.
political. And that's why you got to go through governments, honestly. I mean, I'm with Make Kids is my organization, and I've been lucky that I do have friends that are in the politics in India, and that's how it works. Because most of my teachers don't speak English. I don't communicate with the teachers. I don't communicate with the kids, but I have complete access because I'm talking to the people that are running the schools. And I could say also, to answer your question before, even my friend Derek that's invited here, he has a couple organizations and really active with Everybody Gets to Eat, which is one of his foundations. And that exactly means feeding people that don't have it in Cambodia, in Philippines, and building schools. And that's how we met. We collaborated on one of my projects. He got the materials, the art materials for one of my projects in India. So yes, it is political because you have to know people within the land and work around the border. And to infiltrate any system, you got to work with itself, the system, within the system, but not be the system. Yeah, you understand me? So as outsiders, we have that ability because we're not dealing with all the red tape. People get excited to work, but it's like you got to work with actually the native people within it and empower them, because we're not doing missionaries. We're doing something of bringing up people. That's the idea, and honoring people where they are, right?
Right. And Fabrizio has a question, a comment. Please, Fabrizio.
No, it's not a question, a comment. I would like to add what Ricky says. I totally agree with you. And the only way I see to really bring this or grow it exponentially is start from a very simple concept. When we talk about educational market, that's the first problem we have. Education is not a market. It shouldn't be considered a market. That's the problem. So, and I think we have the capabilities and the network to build a place where people with the same goals, and the goals is really not treated education as market, but as a human right, to bring this human right to everyone. And I agree with you, it's definitely political, but I think it's how could I say, it's the good part of the political part from my point of view. And I see David mentioned the Internet.org in 2017. I was in Pangea in 2010, for example. There's a lot of these great experiments, but for some reason they didn't move forward. But now we have all we need. We have a lot of nice, cool governance models we can use for international cooperation. DAO is getting more and more recognized. So in a couple of years, we will have also the governance to connect all these people and let them work together. Okay. And I really think it's about us.
I came from this number.
iPhone is connected.
Okay.
Of course, technology is always the problem, right?
And so
if I could just chime in real.
I just wanted to make everybody aware we're coming up on the 9:50 mark. However, as we said, that's kind of why we did it. But if anybody needs to exit the building, obviously we'll be officially finished in about 1 minute. However, we've got a 10-minute buffer. If anybody wants to continue with the conversation, we more than welcome that.
Do I get to say Elvis has left the building? I agree with all the statements, and they're all really good ideas. The issue is what I like about what you're doing here is it's one step at a time. You're not trying to change the world overnight. You're not trying to make grandiose statements. You're trying to make impact that's positive, one step at a time. And all of the people here that I've seen so far, this is just an amazing organization. So your growth, if you can continue your process, I was thinking about your, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but I was thinking about your radio conversation or statement, Sasha, that, can you imagine, learning off a radio? We call them podcasts. When I was a kid, because I'm an older kid now, but when I was a kid, I used to sit at the radio because my parents had certain things. We turned the TV off and listened to the radio because there were certain shows and there was knowledge from that, from the stories, from the information. And to Agni's point, not all of it is in line with our beliefs, but it is a certain amount of democratization because you can choose which ones you listen to, And unfortunately, if you're in one tribe or another and you don't like the other tribe, that's a different issue. But it's all out there, it's all available, and it's not scheduled. So it means that when you do get access to the technology, you can get access to the information.
Great point. Great point. And Derek, make sure that you put your organizations into the chat so that we can get it, and definitely come over to the Discord and have some communication so that we can start supporting your organizations also.
I got a confession. I listen to radio.
I do. I listen to radio all the time.
I love it. I have it on the jazz station of the classical. It's fantastic.
I know the cool thing is you get to listen from radio from all over the world. It used to be only local, right? I mean, I listen to jazz radio from France every day.
I love it.
Awesome.
That's all I listen to.
Yeah, I missed out. I missed out on several education opportunities back when I was younger because we only got 2 channels on the TV, and I was always the one on the roof. My dad worked 16, 18-hour days, and he might watch one program, and he'd like, turn it a little bit more, Jake, and I'd hold the antenna still while he watched this program.
Been there.
Well, like ancient.
Yeah, definitely, Derek. It was a pleasure, and like I said, make sure you put your information in. We'd love to support you in any way we possibly.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you so much. And I think that each one of us here are on this call because we're looking for an opportunity to serve. I'm about service. I love serving. Okay, that's why we're here. So I think that in itself gives an expression. I know, Rick, you talk about the politics. True. We know that. We what can we do? We can serve, and that's my breaking the barrier point, okay, with all of that. 100% what you said is true, Rick. Okay, but it's here, it's not going anywhere. Nothing stops me from serving. So just wanted to share that with everyone.
Well, and we can be the example makers. In other
Yeah,
words,
absolutely.
as we pull together from diverse backgrounds, diverse languages, and different cultures, we can be the ones that say no more excuses. Let's do what we can do today, and as technology advances, we'll have other opportunities to even expand that further.
100%.
Yeah. And it's also, people, the way people think necessarily, it's just conditioning. They just accept, and I think we're all part of that until we say, wait, no, not really. But I feel like people are just conditioned to think in a certain way. It's like a veil. And then when it gets removed, it's like another reality. And the possibility of other realities are everybody, available for everybody. So I think that's the biggest issue of being able to move from that conditioning a little bit of how things are. We're all accepting, oh, that's how it is. No, it could be different.
I like the example of the paradigm shift that's come from countries where they've gone from destroying their environment, having their environment be a source of income and pride. With ecotourism and all that sort of stuff. Prosperity drives politics, in a lot of ways. Yeah. If a country becomes more profitable and contributes more to society, or to their pocketbook, regardless of what you think, they'll actually be willing provide it. If they start to recognize prosperity from a paradigm shift to education and growth, and look at some of the countries that are prospering that have taken up some of that on. And it's not perfect. The world's not perfect. But we've got lots of work to do forever.
Yeah, forever.
We're not going to run it. We're not going to run out of opportunities. Okay.
Derek, just to build on your point, I would say both and. And what I mean by that, there's different ways of serving from an ecological perspective, and you could serve the political system. I prefer to work at the level of ethics, which I see as above politics. And so the question is then, how do we work at a meta level? But we all take a little piece in this massive mosaic of solving these wicked problems. And the question is, how good are our connections in a way that we can actually synergize them in upward spirals of co-elevation for aspirations, et cetera, et cetera. We've got so much pulling us down that actually I'm optimistic that AI, if it's designed right, the AI is the good, the bad, and the ugly, but the good can actually be a mechanism for being able to enhance service at multiple levels and multiple opportunities. So we all have to take our little piece of the puzzle and connect together in ways that we can actually make a difference collectively.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, David, if you're still there, turn your camera on a minute. We got to get a big smiley grin from everybody. Let me hide non-video participants, and everybody look into the camera and give us a big cheesy grin. Perfect. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And so we're coming up on the top of the hour, so we definitely will respect everybody's time and get out of here at that time for sure. Anybody got any last comments or concerns? And, number one, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Some people may say, well, it's an awful small number, but folks, this small number, and again, if we keep inviting and keep bringing people, this thing's going to grow and grow exponentially in many ways, probably more so than we could ever imagine. And so reach out, find out what you can do to help support the group, find out what you can do as a teacher, as an educator, as a student, as a family member, NGOs or whatever, or sponsors. We'll gladly discuss any sponsorship somebody wants to bring on. So folks, we just appreciate you coming. We invite you to come back every chance you get.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank y'all. Great job.
Thank you, Agni.
Hi, honey.
Y'all have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.